So as y'all can tell from the title, I have questions. I have mad fucking questions, bro. Isn't this just Tsukimichi? It's just he doesn't have god powers? It's legit what this is. Like, is he not just Makoto? Now, granted, everything else doesn't line up with Tsukimichi, right? That is obvious. Even down to the slave merchant, right? Isn't he just the merchant from Tsukimichi? It's kind of crazy. I'm genuinely curious about where this anime can go. There is one, actually there are two. There are two big reasons as to why I'm still like tuned in, right? Two being Roxanne and whoever that other party member is that I seen in the opening. I seen her, I was like, well, I'm already sold on who I'm set on. Like, Roxanne's cool, right? Roxanne, she's really cool. I'm more so interested in regard to like what Roxanne can do in regards to battle. Because apparently, you know, she's a wolfkin and a warrior. So I want to see what the fuck she gonna be able to do in the dungeon. I think she gonna be able to throw mad hands, bro. Like I said, she's fine. But like, there are other things that she can do that I want to see. Michio definitely caught me off guard, especially when it came to the beginning. Dude, I don't know if it was heavily censored on the Crunchyroll version because I watched the ATX version, if y'all couldn't tell. And bro, that bandit battle scene, that shit was insane. I'm just like, there's no way he's gonna, oh shit, right? I was like, God damn. I couldn't believe that he just like brutally murdered them. And to make matters worse, he thought, oh, it's just a game. It's a kusoge, which means shitty game in Japanese. That's something I know because I play a lot of fighting games and we call a lot of fighting games kusoge, but it is what it is. Just to realize that, oh, this isn't a fucking game, right? This is not a game. I think the idea of showing just little glimpses of how he got there was actually a decent touch. I know a lot of isekais always give you the entire rundown of, oh, okay, so he decided to play this game in which this game was shit, but it had a drawback to where if you attempt to quit the game, you get dragged in. They always do some weird shit like that. But this one definitely took a different approach. It was just like, hey, we gave him a chance, but he didn't take it. So I thought that little touch was fine. I don't need full detail on why or how you got in the game. I just want to know what the story has to offer, because majority of the times the isekai like this, you just get stuck there, right? There's no way back home. So after we get that whole situation taken care of, right, like the whole bandit situation, he ends up going to Vale, which is like the adventurer town. You know, every isekai has the adventurer town where you go, you check in, become an adventurer, blah, 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 blah. He goes and sees the knights because I gotta turn this slave card in so that way I can get paid for it. And obviously, the knights there are stuck up and they started treating him like shit, and I was like, oh no, don't do this, don't give him some reason for revenge. But the good thing was he didn't really give a fuck, right? I was like, okay, Michio, you're taking Mikoto route, and I was like, that's cool, I'm with that, I'm rolling, we rolling. So then the dude that was on the carriage with him, he was letting him know like, hey bro, don't look that way, you know, it's a bunch of bad shit going on around here, you kind of want to steer away from that. There's brothels, but I would recommend that you don't go in there. And the minute he brought up brothels, I was like, oh shit, I wonder if they're gonna show like actual titty in this bitch. And contrary to popular belief, they did. I was like, oh, this anime is sick. Right? This anime is sick. I'm rolling with it. We are in here for the long run. And it was crazy because if you guys watched the CR version, the Crunchyroll version, like the regular one, you probably didn't see it, or it was like OD censored. I watched the ATX version, and let me tell you, that was a sight. Jesus Christ. Obviously, I'm not gonna put it up on the screen because that shit will get me demonetized, and my video might not be seen in specific places. So I will just let you guys know that yes, that shit was indeed crazy. And Michio was super hype about it, right? He's like, oh shit, I get to do the squishy squishy. That's the shit that killed me, bro. That shit fucking murdered. But then we get to Alan, right? Who is the slave trader. And this is where things turned up a little bit because I'm just like, I'm kind of interested on like the type of person Alan is gonna be. And he ended up being more like Patrick Rembrandt, right? The guy who ran the Rembrandt company, which was like the super duper big company in Tsukimichi. And he ended up being more like him. He wasn't weird. That's the thing. He wasn't weird. And he didn't treat the slaves like, you know, how people normally perceive slaves as. So it wasn't like that. They end up doing business, right? Alan and Michio, they end up doing business. And he's like, oh yeah, you know, you're somewhat of an adventurer, right? And he was like, yeah. He was like, I heard you handled those bandits. And he was like, oh yeah, you're giving me too much credit. They were just weak. And Alan gave that grin, right? He gave that glare. And it was at that point, I was just like, oh shit, it's about to go down. He's about to probe him with questions. And even to that note, right? The more you look at it, the more you realize that this whole thing was a setup to get Michio to go to the labyrinth, because he's like, oh man, well, you know, there was a labyrinth that was just discovered on the other side of town, just to try to pique his interest, right? That whole thing goes smooth. They get things together. He gets paid. He gives him the slave card thing, and he gets ready to dip off, and he realizes as the carriage is leaving, he's like, damn, I'm here by myself. I don't know anybody. What am I gonna do? And I like the mannequins that they used, right? Because that symbolized to me that he still thinks this is somewhat a game. Either that or, you know, Passione was a little pressed for budget and just used those. But either way, right, it was okay. And here comes Alan looking out the door like a fucking creep. I thought that shit was funny. You know what would have made this even more funny? I know comedy is not in the tag, but honestly, I think comedy would have made this shit a lot better than it is, because there are some moments where you need the relief. What would have made that moment even funnier to me is if he would have been looking out the window the whole time, right? And then opened the door. So then he, you know, he asked him to come back in, and they start going into the whole like, hey man, how about you buy a slave? Blah, 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 blah. And you know, he's self-aware, right? I think Michio is more aware than we give him credit for. I don't think he's like fully with the idea. Once he brought up like sex slaves, then he was like fucking sold damn near. And I'm like, okay, I think Michio is gonna go the route of, listen, I may bring you guys on as quote unquote sex slaves, but you guys are free. Right? I don't want to hold any of you guys to this standard. I don't think that shit's sweet. I just don't want you guys being taken advantage of by these creeps that be out here. I think that may be the route that Michio goes. Actually, that's the route I hope he goes. It would make this shit 10 times better, maybe 100 times better. And then we get introduced to Roxanne, right? Roxanne, gorgeous, massive breasts. You know, this is how they get you. And she's also like a beast person. So that saves a ton of me needing to explain things. It saves a ton of time. And that's when Alan realized he had him hook, line, and sinker, bro. It was at that fucking moment, which fucking killed me, right? That shit super killed me. Alan knew what he was doing, and then he was like, oh, I see you're interested in Roxanne. And he was like, you know, she could be yours for 400,000, whatever the fucking currency is in that bitch. And he was like, oh my God, that's too much. And then that's when he was going over, oh damn, she could be sold to somebody else. And you know, they gave you that like imagery of like what the fuck could potentially happen. So he was just like, fuck that shit, right? Fuck that shit, bro. He said, I'll give you 5 days. I'll give you 5 days to get that money. And I think he's gonna get that money relatively easy by going to the labyrinth. There, he might discover like a few other teammates and stuff like that. I'm not too sure. But honestly, I think this has a lot of potential in both facets, right? It has a lot of potential to be good, and it has a lot of potential to be pretty fucking bad. I'm leaning towards the good side of things because I always try to give something the benefit of the doubt regardless of like what happens. So I'm gonna give it the 3-episode treatment, maybe even 4, depending on where things go, because I don't want to just like outright say it's garbage or outright say, you know, it's fucking the next coming of whatever, right? Don't want to do that. So let me know what you guys thought about it in the comment section below. Regardless of whether y'all watch it or not, I appreciate y'all for being here. I appreciate y'all for supporting your boy, and I appreciate y'all for continuing to give me a chance to grow on this platform. Leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new. If there's anything else you guys want to see from me from this summer anime season, make sure y'all also let me know in the comment section as well if you made it to this point. I'm always open for suggestions to try and watch something and give it my take on it, right? Always interested in doing that. But again, thank you guys. With that being said, it's your boy, xDomoSenpaix, and I will catch you guys in the next video.